super dirty, and I apologize, but it's raining and I am going to deep wash her tomorrow, so don't worry. Today we are just talking about this sound right here. Damn, Sally, you are so dirty. Look at this. My goodness. Stay tuned for a wash and detail video coming tomorrow. My goodness. What is good, everybody? Today we are back with another amazing video. You guys already know I installed the 4 Performance hot rod camshafts on my 2008 Mustang GT, and I'm here to give you guys my review. I had to go ahead and pull Sally into my garage because it is just way too windy over there, and I know that the sound quality probably won't be too good, so pulled it in here for now. We're gonna get some more exhaust clips very soon when we go out on the road, as well as just take her outside because I know you guys want to hear it. But now we are just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about these 4 Performance hot rod camshafts. First, let's go ahead and start off with the install. So the install, like I mentioned, was the most scariest install I have ever done on my Mustang. It was more nerve-wracking than the Nitrous, but it was very simple, to say the least. As you guys already know, you have to open up the engine to go ahead and get access to these camshafts. And when you get access to it, it is pretty scary because I've never seen some parts in my lifetime and I have zero mechanical expertise at all. I don't know how to do anything. That's why the more I do, the more I learn. So these camshafts, stripped the bolt, popped that sucker out, was able to do the right side. But once when the sprocket came off of the actual camshaft, my heart skipped so many beats, you guys have no clue. As mentioned before, I did it myself. I was able to get help from my dad's friend, and we ended up getting the camshaft on the sprocket. Again, I did follow the Comp Cam's installation guide, which I will put down in the description. It is the same exact thing. I know whenever you do camshaft installs with other camshafts, not Ford Performance, you do have to do a lot of things like compressing the springs, which needs like a special tool. You also have to spin the crank pulley at like the 7 o'clock and the 1 o'clock position, and then also you need to go ahead and get some special cam lube. That installation process is only for camshafts that are not the Ford Performance hot rod camshafts. The Ford Performance hot rod camshafts are a direct replacement to the ones in the factory. Ford made these camshafts, which are right here. Hot rod camshafts is from the same company, and if it's not these, then you are gonna have to do other things like compressing the springs, maybe get new springs, a new phaser limiter kit, and everything else. And so these are the stock camshafts that I have loaded, just in case I gotta put the stock ones back on. So it is a direct replacement, right? And I know right when I installed my camshafts, Jonathan Harder, which is another YouTuber for the 3-valve, if you haven't checked his channel out, go check it out. But he actually ran into a bad problem with his Mustang. His rocker camshafts, I believe that's what it is, actually broke the roller followers inside of the actual engine. And I did research on his camshafts and I looked through it all, and I did find out that those camshafts, although are a direct replacement from the company that they listed, they actually, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, they actually highly recommend to change out your springs and to change out the phaser limiter kit. And so they actually highly recommend it. I know that there could have been other things that could have caused a problem, like when he actually did the install, one of the followers were actually broken. At that case, we should have actually replaced it, but you know, if that was me and I would have seen it, I probably would have done the same thing. I would have probably just installed it. But the Ford Performance hot rod camshafts do not recommend that. It's completely safe with the springs, with everything inside of the engine, so you are good to go. I also did a whole bunch of research on the Ford Performance hot rod camshafts, and they all say the thing, it is actually not recommended to change out the springs just because it works so well with the stock equipment. But if anything does go wrong, I will make sure to go ahead and let you guys know with these camshafts and the stock equipment that comes with it. Everything is going well so far. I drove 1,000 miles on my Mustang in about a week. I know that's a lot, but it was the holidays and I was driving everywhere, which was kind of good for me because I did get up my 1,000 miles, and I am really familiar with these camshafts, how they drive and how they perform and all that stuff. So no check engine lights, which is great. The engine sounds great. The car runs fantastic, and I have zero complaints. She's running like a beauty. So that's basically everything for the installation. The video on Jonathan Harder and his Mustang and his camshafts. I need to go ahead and do an oil change because that is actually recommended to do an oil change. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Stay tuned for that video. I also need to go ahead and clean this, and I need to go ahead and clean Sally because she is just so dang dirty. Usually I always wash her before videos, but not today because it was raining, as you guys could see, and super windy. But yeah, so that is that. And let me go ahead and get out on the road, tell you everything about the drive, the sound, the thump, and all that good stuff. So let's get right into the car. I actually forgot one thing, talking about the installation. Total, it took me about 4 hours to complete over a span of 3 days. I ran into 3 problems. The first one, I stripped the bolt on the passenger side camshaft, which took me a day to go ahead and grab the tool to unstrip it. And then I ran into my second problem where I needed 2 people to go ahead and put the sprocket onto the camshafts, which I had to go ahead and hit up one of my dad's friends. And then the third problem that I had was I didn't have the right tool, which ended me taking up another day to go ahead and grab it, which was the vice grips to go ahead and move the camshafts to the sprocket. If you go ahead and take those 3 factors out, total it took about 4 hours. It could have taken me about 3.5 hours to go ahead and complete, just because I have my Nitrous set up and that took a while to go ahead and put all the hardware back together. But ask anybody around that has camshafts and done the install. It is a very, very quick installation, especially if you have the tools to do it. I highly recommend don't even start to do the camshaft install until you have the tune, which is the most important thing, and all of the tools. You could go ahead and check the installation guide on YouTube or even American Muscle. They all have that. Once when you're good to go, take about 4 hours and you should be good to go. Alright, so now we have the car running. I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit while you guys hear this awesome sound. So first of all, the number one reason why I got the camshafts was of course of this idle and the sound that you get from it. I really do wish that the 3-valve engine could actually do the ghost cam, so I'm gonna have to spend $800 on the actual camshafts and installation. But unfortunately, the 3-valve doesn't have those camshafts, and the only way to cam it is to actually get the cams. So that is my number one reason why I got this. A lot of you guys have been asking me, what's the purpose of camshafts? Is it only the sound? That's kind of stupid why you spend $800 just to get that sound? And yes and no. Yes, because I love the sound. It is the greatest sound on the 3-valve engine. So a majority of it, yes, I did install it because of the sound, but you also get performance gains. Ford Performance dynoed this car on their own, and they found gains to 30 horsepower to the crank, which is not too much to the wheels. But I know if you have other internals, you can get up to internals and long tube headers, you can get up to 50 horsepower, which long tube headers to come summer of 2018, hopefully, we'll see. And so that's basically it. And also the higher RPMs that you could possibly go with these. I know that the rev limiter is 6,800 with these camshafts. Those are pretty much the perks that you get with this awesome sound right here, horsepower increase, as well as high RPM ranges that you could go ahead and push with these camshafts. So that's what everything that these camshafts can offer you, which I totally think it is worth it, 100%. all the time, baby. Let's go. Another thing about this exhaust, I don't know if you guys can actually see. You can see the exhaust note. She stinks so much. My goodness. The camshafts actually emit so much exhaust. It's kind of bad, to be honest. That's the only really bad thing I could say about this. But besides that, the sound, it is pushing out a lot more, which is the lope. But the sound totally makes up for how bad she stings. But let's go ahead and get into the car. Let's talk a little bit more about it inside here. All right, so as soon as I installed the camshafts and I took it out for a spin, Sally didn't really seem like Sally. She seemed like a different beast, and that's exactly what you're supposed to expect. With the camshaft install, I thought it was a tune, or I thought that I installed it incorrectly, but actually, when you install the Ford Performance Hot Rod camshafts on your car, you do see differences in the drivability. Number one, you cannot drive slow with the camshafts in. And what do you mean by that? So when I first started out and you find that perfect balance between the clutch and the actual throttle, you have to put a little bit more gas to it to go ahead and move. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's pretty hard to drive slow just because of the lope. It feels like your car is going to stall. So it's idling at 800, which it normally always idles at 800, but it doesn't feel like 800 with the clutch. I don't know really how to explain it, but it just feels like it's going to stall, which when I took it out on my first time, I did stall because it was a completely new, different engine. You have to learn. It did take me about a full week. Today was like the only day where I actually figured it out and the right balance between the clutch and the throttle. But it's just a different engine, and that's the first reactions that I felt. But now let's go ahead and get out on the road, and I'll go ahead and tell you more. So taking that on the spin, after above 2,000 RPM, I would say, it goes back to normal. You don't hear the lope, of course. It just sounds like Sally was before the camshafts, but just a tad bit louder, actually. Earlier, I did mention about the tune, and you guys already know my tuner, Bama Performance Tune. I'm not entirely sure how it is. It's running perfectly fine for me. It was free for me, and I will go ahead and possibly get a dyno tune later on. But as of right now, it's working great. The throttle response is excellent, and I have no complaints, honestly. I know I will switch, and I'm already expecting the comments down below, but that's what I'm running right now, the Bama 91 Octane race tune. And by far, this is the most aggressive tune I have ever received from Bama. And what do you mean by aggressive? So, usually when you downshift, your car is supposed to slow down, right? This doesn't slow down. It sometimes actually speeds up when I try to downshift in order to slow down, which is kind of weird, but that means it's just super aggressive. And sometimes the car will just jolt forward as though you slam on the throttle, which is also concerning but cool because you do get that really aggressive tune from Bama. Overall, I don't see any other flaws with the tune. It's going great, idle's great, but the one thing that I did notice is that my low end torque actually was missing. For the S197, it already has bad low end torque, and after the camshaft install, it was even worse. That's why I got the Ford Performance 410 gears, is to fix that problem. But after I got the camshafts installed, I lost even more, and I thought it was either the tune that was doing this, because I was just like, what the heck, why am I losing all of this performance? But then I did some research online, and then I also found out that with the camshafts, you lose the low end power, but you actually gain it when you reach 4,000 RPM all the way to your rev limiter. So that is perfectly normal with the camshafts. That's also something you should look into with your camshafts, because that could be like a distinguishing factor. You do lose the low end power, but higher RPM ranges is more important when you do the performance, and that's where all of the horsepower and the torque comes for these camshafts. Besides that, everything seems fine. Drivability is great. Sound is amazing. It is super loud. I'm actually gonna go ahead and stop right here to show you guys the cabin sound, if the camera will actually pick it up. I'm gonna shut up just for a split second and let you guys hear the idle of the camshafts. So it's not that loud. I do have my rear seats back in. If I were to have my rear seat delete kit, it would actually be a lot louder in the cabin, but it's pretty reasonable. It's not completely obnoxious. Another thing that I do see when I'm idling is the camshafts. I know for a fact it's the camshafts shake the car. And I really want to show you guys how it shakes it, but I think I cannot show it to you because I'm also shaking right now and the camera can't really capture the shakiness. But you guys are just gonna have to trust me. Check anywhere that has the Ford Performance hot rod camshafts and they will tell you it shakes your car. You could see it in the shifter, you could feel it on your seat, and that is just so awesome. It feels like you're driving a beast that wants to come out of the engine, that's just like rocking it, and I love that feature. I really do enjoy it. It's awesome. Very cool. So yeah, that's everything inside the cabin while it is idling. You do hear that sound, you do feel the shake and the rumble. And another thing, when you have your windows down, you can smell the exhaust, which I love the smell of exhaust and gas. I don't know why, I'm super weird. I really do like it, but sometimes it can get obnoxious, and it's not always nice. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the gas mileage after I installed the hot rod camshafts. So I actually went from having about 15 in the city and 18 in the highway, which most of my commute is highway. And after I installed these camshafts, I feel like I am filling up at the gas station every 5 days. It went from 6 days to 5 days, and I actually went from 14 miles per gallon in the city and about 17 miles per gallon on the highway. So it did drop about 1 mile per gallon, and that is also something you should expect when you install the hot rod camshafts. I'm not entirely sure why, but it does feel like the engine is using more gas. It could be me, but I also did research and other people are saying the same thing, that the gas mileage does go down, which shouldn't be a concern, especially if you have a V8 engine. That should be one of your last concerns, is gas mileage, but I just thought that I should mention it because it is a struggle. I pretty much live at the gas station. All right, guys, and that's pretty much everything. I think I hit all of the points on the Ford Performance hot rod camshafts. If I did miss some, I will try to update you guys in the later videos, but that's everything I have for you. Let's just go ahead and enjoy the sound one more time before we head out for today. Make sure you slam that like button, subscribe down below, and as always, have yourself a wonderful day. And here's a little goodbye from Sally.